So, Imperial Order. Negate all spell effects on the field. Once per turn, during the standby phase. You must pay 700 life points. This is not optional, or this card is destroyed. This card deserves to be banned to you guys. In my opinion, this is a card that we need in the metagame in order to combat decks like Drytron and Sky Strikers. Without this card in the game, these decks get to run free. They get to do whatever they want, however they want to do it. There is no easy way of beating this deck. You can drop a draw on Drytrons, they can negate it. Strikers don't really get hurt by draw. They'll send their stuff from the graveyard, you know what I mean? Then they'll get it back, and yeah, then they won't maybe be able to use Engage twice, but they'll have used it once. So, you know what I mean? And then they'll just get it back again next turn and repeat the process. So, because you got to play into draw first, they got to add a card first. So, granted, they could just, you know, upstart Goblin into it. So, pretty much what I'm trying to say is Imperial Order is a necessary card. You play cards like Anti-Spell Fragrance instead of it if it was to get banned, but you still need, like, Imperial Order is like really good. And now some people try to say like, well, what if they have an established board and they flip Imperial Order on you? Well, then you lose because you lost to an established board. The board was created and Imperial Order was luck sack that they had got. There's nothing you can do about it. You know, like, that's with anything. Like, what if I make an established board and I have Called by the Grave? You know what I mean? You lose. You know, you're gonna lose. Like, I got 2 negates plus a Called by the Grave and a hand trap. Like, it's gonna be pretty hard to play through that. You know what I mean? So, because I could just negate one of your cards, beat anything, and then Called by a grave monster. You know what I mean? Like, take that out for the rest of the turn. Be pretty hard to beat, right? So, Imperial Order has some good applications, and there are some applications where it's pretty, like, really good, but it's a necessary card in order to not let decks go unchecked. It's just necessary in the game. Like, there's got to be a Royal Decree, there's got to be an Imperial Order, there's got to be a Skill Drain. These cards got to exist in order to combat certain strategies that are just getting out of hand, you know what I mean? Like, just has to, you know, just has to. Some decks are really out of hand, so, and there needs to be something to check them. If there's nothing to check them, then it just gets worse. It just gets worse. Imperial Order at 1, it might feel sacky because, oh, they got lucky, they drew it, but that's just Yu-Gi-Oh! In general. You pick up 5 cards and you hope for the best, you know? You hope for the best. So, not like you just are the best and you just always get the best cards all the time. No, you can get unlucky, you can draw the 5 worst cards in your deck and lose. So, or you can draw the 5 best cards in your deck and you can lose. Or, yeah, and you can lose, or you can win. However you want to think about it. Pretty much, in my opinion, Imperial Order is a card that needs to stay. It needs to be in the game. It's good for the game. There are situations where it can be crazy, but, like, for example, established board, Dark Blue no more, Imperial Order, but that could have been Solemn Judgment. That could have been straight up Solemn Judgment. And also, this should tell you that if your deck is going to lose Imperial Order like that, then you need more cards, you know what I mean? Like, you need more better cards in the side game just for Imperial Order. Just for it. But some could argue when you're citing just for one card like that, isn't that kind of crazy? No, because you're not just citing for one card. Like, it's never just that, because if it's just one card, if your opponent just sets Imperial Order and passes their turn, you're not probably going to have to use Dark Willow no more. You're just going to play your monster game, and the only true decks that this really hurts is Sky Striker and Drytrons, and they're going to complain about every little thing. You know what I mean? Like, oh, if I can't use my graveyard, Abyss Dweller's broken, ban it. So it goes on that same exact route, to where I believe that this card is actually good for the game, because there's too many strategies that are unbalanced. If the card is unbalanced, it's only as unbalanced as the deck that you've created is, to be honest, for the most part. For the most part, yeah, there's some situations where it can be like, dang, this card is really good, but that's a rarity. It's rare to see someone get Imperial Order and make like 5 negates. That's not something you commonly see. You don't commonly see a full board of monsters that are like a full board of dragoons, and they, what's it called, you got Imperial Order. Like, you don't see that very often, like almost never, because Imperial Order is not easy to draw. Like, it's at one, you got a 1 in like a 34 chance to draw it, you know, one card out of a 40 card deck. You pick up 5, and then let's say you just draw, you know, like what, you went second, then you gotta wait a turn, or if you go first, now it's a 1 in 35. Chances of drawing the card are pretty low, so it's going to be rare when you do draw it. So that's all I gotta say really about Imperial Order. The card is necessary for now and the future. It needs to exist in the game. Without it, people are just gonna go crazy. People's decks are gonna go unchecked. Spell strategies are just going to be able to wreak a lot of havoc, and that's not fair. Basically, that's not fair. That you can play a deck with just monsters and spells, and that's it. Like, or just spells and a few monsters, however you want to look at it. Imperial Order needs to stay. It's a great card. It's a great card, and I'm not even speaking for a sack. It doesn't even hurt my deck, so it doesn't even affect me, and it doesn't affect most of the meta decks at the moment either. It doesn't really affect Sword Soul. It doesn't really affect Live Twins. It doesn't really affect Beat Troopers like that. It doesn't affect like a lot of decks. It doesn't affect Elish. It doesn't affect Alter Guys. It doesn't affect Emancipators. It doesn't affect like so many decks in the game. It just doesn't really affect it. It only affects really Drytron and Sky Striker. Most decks can do something about that. It doesn't affect Virtual World. It doesn't affect a lot of decks. So Dragon Link doesn't affect Dragon Link. The list goes on. These are just decks that I can think of right now. That was like 5-6 decks. So yeah, Imperial Order needs to stay.